So we're gonna do an A portion. All right. So the first part of my A portion, I want to look for my 3 L's. That's my lights, that's my leans, and my leaks. All right. I'm gonna look over the front of my cab, make sure all my lights are properly mounted and secured and in proper color. I want to make sure the truck is not leaning left to right, and I also want to make sure that my truck is not leaking. All right. Then I go to the passenger side. I look at my coolant reservoir, make sure it's properly mounted and secured. It's filled to the proper level. All right. I want to follow my hoses down to my water pump. My water pump is gear driven. It's properly mounted and secured, not damaged. All right. I want to make sure my belts and all of my hoses are properly mounted and secured, and no more than 3/4 of play when pulled by hand. All right. Then I'm gonna go around to my driver's side. All right. Do my driver's side. I'm gonna start with my blue hose. I'm gonna follow my blue hose all the way back here to my air compressor. All right, my air compressor is properly mounted and secured, not cracked, not damaged, not leaking. I'm gonna go right on top of that, and there's my power steering pump. My power steering pump is properly mounted and secured, not cracked, not damaged, not leaking. I'm gonna come out this way to my oil. I'm gonna check my oil by pulling out the dipstick, make sure it's also properly mounted and secured and filled to the proper level. I'm gonna go right beside it to my power steering fluid reservoir, make sure it is properly mounted and secured, not damaged, not leaking, and I will make sure it's filled to the proper level. My alternator. This is my alternator. All right. Make sure it's properly mounted and secured, not cracked, not damaged. All wires are intact. All right. And my alternator is belt driven. My air compressor and my power steering pump are both gear driven. All right. I'm gonna come out here to my power steering gearbox. This is my power steering gearbox and my hoses. Make sure everything is properly mounted and secured, not cracked, no damages. My hoses doesn't have any cuts or abrasions. All right. And I want to come down to my drag link. All right. My cotter pins, my castle nuts, my bolts, all those are properly mounted and secured. I want to make sure my drag link is properly mounted and secured, not cracked, not damaged. All right, I'll go right behind here. I got my leaf spring mount, my leaf spring, my U-bolts. These are my U-bolts. My shock absorbers. I want to make sure that all those are properly mounted and secured, not cracked, not damaged. All right, I'm gonna go to my brake line, my brake hose, and my ABS wire. Make sure those are properly mounted and secured, not damaged, not leaking, no abrasions or cuts. All right. Anything that holds fluid or air, it cannot leak. It cannot have any cuts or abrasions. Okay. And another side note: everything on the firewall is gear driven, and everything on the front of the motor is belt driven. All right. So your power steering pump and your air compressor are gear driven, and your alternator and everything else over here is belt driven. All right. So I'm gonna go to my tire, and I should have turned this tire a little bit. All right, I'm gonna go to my brake system. All right. So I have my brake chamber. It's properly mounted and secured, not cracked, not damaged. It holds air so it can't leak. All right. I got my push rod and my slack adjuster. It's properly mounted and secured, set at a 90-degree angle. All right, no more than 1 inch of play when brakes are released. All right. I'm gonna go to my brake shoes and brake liners. They're both properly mounted and secured, not cracked, not damaged. All right. No more than 1 inch of thickness when the brakes applied. There's no bluing, indicating overheating. All right. I'm gonna come out to my tires. I want to make sure my tires have 4/32 tread depth. All right. If you say 432, you will not get credit. It's 4/32 tread depth. All right. I'm going to come out here to my rim. I'll make sure my rim is properly mounted and secured, not damaged, not cracked, no illegal welds. I'm going to check my firewall. My tire wall. Make sure it's properly mounted and secured. Now, no abrasions, no cuts, and it's not damaged. All right. I'm going to check my tire pressure at the valve stem with a tire pressure gauge. All right. Look at my lug nuts. All my lug nuts are properly mounted and secured, not cracked, not damaged. There's no rust streaks indicating looseness. All right. This is a hub axle seal. All right. Hub axle seal is properly mounted and secured, not cracked, not damaged. It holds oil, so it cannot leak. All right. And this is how you would check that. There's a little fiberglass right here, but got a little oil on it, whatever. All the bolts that are holding the hub axle seal is properly mounted and secured, not damaged. If you don't call these lug nuts, you will not get credit. These are not bolts. These are not screws. They're lug nuts. All right? And I think that will include my A portion.